I guess in the meantime, I can talk about some upcoming shows, and while I'm at it, I can even take a call.
Hello, I'm here.
Oh, hello, Dr. Rand.
Yes, sir. I've been
Hi.
here. I've been hearing you talking.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yes,
because
sir.
it just showed up on the switchboard. I apologize for that.
I have no idea. Listen, that's why it's called Late Night in the Midlands, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Let's look at that as a positive. I have no idea. I went through the number routine, and I just waited. And then I heard you talking, and I said, okay, I'll just wait for the right opportunity. Anyway, good evening. How are you?
I am doing great, and good evening to you. And how are you doing tonight?
Great. Well, we're off to a very strange and unique start. So you take the lead, and I'll follow, and we'll talk about any subject at any level you'd like tonight.
Okay, great. I guess you could start out by telling everybody a little bit about yourself and a little bit about your book, and feel free to give any websites or information on anything you like to start things
Okay.
off.
Well, why don't we do this? I always like to start out at the immediate moment that our interview begins because I have this little interesting psychological profile game we play to find out where your audience is. I understand we may take calls tonight, correct?
Yeah, that is correct.
All right. So why don't we throw the challenge out there first to get them thinking about what to call in about, all right?
All right.
All right. Now, hey, everybody. I've written a book called Return to Planet X. Reads like science fiction, has a screenplay like Star Trek attached to it, and it's way, way beyond anything we could imagine. But instead of being science fiction, the book we wrote about is about a real event that is about to happen to the entire structure of the planet and the solar system and its relationship to our particular sector of the galaxy. Let's introduce it from the galactic viewpoint.
Okay.
We exist as a solar system on one of the furthest outstretches in the spiral arms of the Milky Way galaxy. I mean, if you were to look at it looking down at the plane of the ecliptic as if you were above in a big spaceship, you would see our little beautiful solar system perfectly balanced by the sun, existing all by itself, yet surrounded by billions of stars, but the distances are so great. Imagine what we're talking about if you were looking at it from way up in space. So you see, our galaxy is a huge spiral wheel of stars that circulates in a counterclockwise motion for some unknown, well, not totally unknown, but also spiritual level. All of God's creation seems to rotate in a counterclockwise motion. All galaxies, all solar systems, all suns, most meteorite belts, most planets, everything rotates counterclockwise. So here we are out on this arm. We're hanging out there all by our lonesomes. And all of a sudden, about 4.5 to 5 billion years ago, now mind you that the Milky Way galaxy probably now could be 10,000 billion years old.
Wow,
okay?
That's pretty old.
the Big Bang thing, way back there, okay?
Yeah.
So we're about 4.5 to 5 billion years into the illumination and the ignition of our sun, which is a fusion-driven power plant, which gives Earth all of her life. Without the sun, there would be no life on planet Earth. Okay. About 4.5 to 5 billion years ago, some gigantic, huge rock from space, possibly the size of a small planet, comes careening out of the deep reaches of space, coming directly at what would be looking down on the plane of the ecliptic of our solar system, with the sun in the center and all the planets. I'm sure you've seen a top view at some point, in your astronomy classics of what our solar system looks like with the sun rotating and all the planets. Well, this huge space rock comes roaring right through the local center sector of our solar system and collides head-on with a huge rocky planet at the outer edges of this young solar system. It was called Marduk, according to legends and all the references. We have 2,000 references in our book about everything that you and I are talking about is contained in the book, The Return to Planet X. Okay?
Okay.
Now, mind you, this isn't science fiction.
No,
We believe really happened based on 7 years of research, reading 300 or 400 books, and it's all written down. It's kind of like a mystery coming at you, but then at the end you go, oh boy, are we ready for this?
I remember reading about this Planet X stuff back when I was in high school. They didn't know a lot about it, but I do remember reading a few articles about Planet X.
You know when the name Planet X even got its modern-day genesis? Real simple. It was NASA. In 1982, NASA was conducting a huge series of infrared telescopic deep light searches, and they come upon, much to their surprise, what seems to be a very, very hot, smoldering type of molten, igniting and blowing itself up and over, like a small sun seemed to be coming straight at us from deep space. And they said that they had never seen anything like it and suspected that it was probably something like a brown dwarf star or something like that. And guess what? They said, since we don't know what to call it, this is in the news article, New York Times, press releases, talk shows, and all of a sudden, 24 hours later, whew, gone, clean, wiped off the face of television and print media, is the story of Planet X. They themselves called it Planet X. They even put the hyphen between the T and the X. They did it just perfect. It was NASA itself who ignited this entire thing about Planet X. It's just that simple. Now, the question is, what's that got to do with today? Well, it's got everything to do with today. Because I think that the result of this large rock smashing through our baby solar system of 4.5 to 5 billion years ago, when it hit Marduk, it burst into billions and trillions and gillions of pieces, just like our national deficit. And it formed the asteroid belt. Other large pieces also careened inward toward the sun. We think one hit the Earth, thus breaking up the original continental mass known as Pangea. When the Earth was formed and settled, it was one huge mass. And it's interesting, if you look at the Pacific Ocean and figure out how it all fits as a jigsaw puzzle, something probably hit deep in the Pacific Ocean, which is why the Pacific Ocean is much larger and deeper, and apparently pushed against the continental plates that are now the west coast of California. So with that, we think that that's what set up the way the continents were split. And that also would help to explain why all this pressure is against the western plate going against the continental western plate of the United States, setting us up for the big one. Back to Planet X. See, it's all tied in, Michael. Everything we talk about, the political intrigue going on, this deficit business, this mysterious swine flu M1 virus.
Yeah.
All of this is so interestingly played out. It's almost as if it should be part of Roland Emmeringer's 2012. You know it's coming November 13th, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's going to be a jawbreaker and an eye-opener, and I guarantee you that if the population of this country doesn't have their eyes made more wide open by that particular motion picture, nothing will grab your attention better. Now, I don't think it's going to be that bad. I hope to hell it's not. But,
oh, same here.
but, if all the legends are wrong, and all the predictions are wrong, and all the weather stats are wrong, and all the prophecies are wrong, and all the sacred books and the legends that go back, and as we traced this Planet X thing that comes through, it comes through about every 36 to 4,000 years. I got to finish about what it is exactly.
Okay.
Another piece hit Mars, causing the huge bulge out at the western extremes of Mars. A big piece hit that, and a piece certainly must have hit Venus, because Venus died instantly. It was like she was struck by something electric, and she went into a hot state. Now, we believe that according to the legends and all the research, and I take this, and believe me, I take this very seriously, we probably had 12 original planets in the solar system, not the 9, or let's say the 8.5. You know, poor Pluto got demoted. You know that.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I don't like that. I grew up with Pluto, you know.
Yeah, me too.
All right, so let's just assume we still got 9 planets left, all right?
Okay.
And their moons in the asteroid belt and all of that. Okay, so apparently we must have lost 3 planets somewhere to go from 12 to 9, okay? So that would be Marduk, and what Zecharia Sitchin might be referring to as the 12th planet. I'm sure you're aware of him and his books and his theories.
Yes, I am.
All right. He's frighteningly on target. There may well be a 12th planet out there, and it may well be tied into this thing called Planet X. We think that Planet X is not a planet, but it is a small brown dwarf star, possibly the size of Saturn, or possibly only as small as our moon. But whatever it is, we believe that it is what's left of a small baby sun that circled our big mother sun. We believe that our solar system was originally equipped with 12 planets, and it was a binary star system. A large fusion star, Sol, which of course still shines, thank goodness, and its a baby, and a big piece of this chunk out of space smashed dead on into it and instantly spun it 180 degrees out of its counterclockwise orbit and spun it instead in a reverse course clockwise. It hit it instantly. You follow me?
Yeah.
Spinning at 180 degrees on its axis, which would probably be the force of 2 things the size that they were colliding with each other. And it sent it out into a long, narrow, elliptical orbit, thrust away from the sun by the force of the blow. And it's an elliptical orbit which may take anywhere from 3,600 to 4,000 years to complete. We've never really seen one this up close. All we have are the legends and the stories and the conspiracies surrounding what it is. What is Planet X? It's all of it, Michael. It's all of it. It's all the science fiction and all the horror about the weather and all this political nonsense about Armageddon, or maybe it's not nonsense.
Yeah.
I think, believe it or not. See, I didn't start this journey out, this search for planet Earth, what may be the return of our baby sister sun. This came at me from a dozen angles almost simultaneously. But what caused the nail to go into the coffin of doubt was when I started to get involved with some of the prophecies that are contained in the original Hebraic writings, the Torah, as well as the Old Testament and the New Testament. There are so many cross-referencings that, okay, let me give you just one.
Okay.
Okay? I want to discuss it from a position of numerology. In numerology, every number has a corresponding letter associated with it, right?
Okay.
A is 1, what? B is 2, right? C is 3.
Huh?
So each number has a corresponding letter. Okay, let's take this magical, mystical, Mayan end-of-time cosmic date, Roland Emmerich's 2012. Let's take December 21st, 2012, which is what all of the research and all of the stuff incoming, there are 10,000 websites about 2012 and what's going on. When you boil it down numerically, December 21st, 2012 becomes 12-21-12. 12/21/2012. Reads as now in letter form. ABBAAB. Now, when you consider that the Hebrew language is read from right to left, what? We reverse everything. So this date is turned upside down and now would read, in terms of letters, BAABBA. Now, in Hebrew, that's pronounced Ba'aba. 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 Now, the Hebrew translation for Ba'aba is, here we go, Father comes, Father is coming. Stop frame. In the Judeo-Christian ethic and in all forms, in fact, in almost every language, every religion of the world, they associate Father with God. You see?
Right, right.
So God is coming, or God comes, God is coming, would be Father comes, Father is coming, because Father and the God are one and the same. Now, it is very interesting that that happens just that way. It's too strange for it to come out that way in terms of the Hebraic understanding of the date, December 21st, 2012. Now I'm going to jump into the New Testament. I want to jump. By the way, this is not a religious thing I'm pulling on you. Please
I understand
that. This is pure science, my friend. I ain't selling any religious book. You know, I don't have any prayer beads. This is not where I'm going.
Oh, I totally understand.
All right. I want everybody to understand. I'm dead serious about this. Now I want to jump into the New Testament. Just 2 quotes, and that's it. We'll move right on. But it's profound. Chapter 8, verse 11. Just doodle down, chapter 8, verse 11. And I'm only going to quote that small piece. And he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the 4 winds, from one end of heaven to the other. That's Matthew 24:31, end quote. Now, in olden times, the word heaven was often interchanged with earth, way back when. So from one end of earth to the other, that word can be interchanged.
Call back in.
Hello? Hello?
Oh, hello. Okay. I lost you for a second there.
You did?
Yeah.
I was talking right on. I haven't stopped.
Okay. Well, go ahead.
How much did you lose?
Just about probably the last. Yeah, it seems we're breaking up just a little bit here.
Well, you want to keep going? Yeah?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Okay, you're coming in clear now.
Okay, I'm trying to figure out what was the last thing you remember me saying?
Well, you were talking about the scripture out of the prophecies of the Bible, and I believe you were going into the next phase of that. And that's
did I give you the Matthew 24:31 quote?
Yes, you did.
All right. Well, that's a point I can pick it right up from. Okay.
Okay.
What I said then was it was way too strange for me to see these 2 overlapping pieces of the puzzle that were absolutely inescapable because they connected to a dozen other pieces. And that eventually led me to the book of Revelation in chapter 11, verse 8. And the name of the star was Wormwood. And the name of the star was Wormwood. Now, after 7 years of setting this up, by the way, I read 300 books. I got 2,000 references. I've got quotes from some of the most important authors ever written on the subject. And I've come to the conclusion that all of them were right, and that I was lucky enough to be able to put all the pieces of the puzzle. See, to me, I set this up as a giant puzzle. Eventually, the puzzle had to start making sense because I was putting it into focus. When you write a book like this, you have to approach it from not only a research aspect, but you have to write it with heart and conviction and honesty, and you have to take all the bias out of it. Otherwise, you can't write objectively. You see?
Okay.
And the subject, to me, was way more too important. I had to put all my ego and all this stuff aside. And when I got done writing it, I sat down and I said, oh, boy, you know, is anybody going to take this seriously? But they have. I'm in my third printing, and I've already done about 350 radio shows, and books have been sent to certain senators and even to the White House. I still haven't heard anything back yet, but we're hoping to get some reaction from the White House to the book, because what we've written in the book is a blueprint, I think, to help us ride this thing out. That's why I call it, you know, a survivor's manual.
Yeah.
Do
Okay.
you want to hit the lines and see if anybody's want to pick up?
Sure. I can pick up one on the line right now.
Okay.
All right. 803 area code. You are on the air late night in the Midlands. Billy?
Hello, sir.
Hello, Billy? Okay, Billy don't want to talk. He just wants to listen in.
Okay.
Yeah,
well,
they have that option. Some can listen in
right.
on the phone if they choose.
Let's continue with the story. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. If this incoming object is the same thing described in the Book of Revelation and throughout a dozen different ancient writings, it's got about 100 different names. But let's just, for our purposes, we're just going to call it wormwood. Now, this celestial object has huge gravitational and electromagnetic and gravitational field implications. You know, I'm going to go Star Trek on you, okay?
Okay.
Now, this object is big enough that it can affect rotation of planets. It can even affect the rotation and performance of our sun. Now, keep in mind that whatever outside influence tinkers or moves or agitates or upsets our sun, all of these effects will be magnified and then sent back out from her to all of the creation that she commands. You see? Without the sun, our gravitational field would fail, number one. Our orbits would decay, and it would be utter and absolute chaos until everything smashed into each other. Okay?
Oh, boy.
So this is a huge balancing thing that the sun does. So whatever affects the sun affects us immediately, within hours sometimes. And all this business of global warming and global cooling and all this other nonsense about the changing environment, well, when I say it that way, I don't mean that it's silly or stupid, but the way they're attacking it, the way they're handling it is silly, it's wasteful, and it's nonsense. There is no such thing as a fixed element here of either global warming or global cooling. The point of the matter is the planet is confused by the mixed signals it's getting from the sun, and so do all the other planets. They're all exhibiting strange behavioral quirks. It's because this incoming object, we believe, is affecting the electromagnetic and gravitational fields of the sun. So whatever affects the sun, big or small, is going to radiate out, right? If you shake it, it's just gonna like waves in a pond. It's going to ripple right on out to everything that the sun commands, and that is everything in the sun's realm, including the asteroid belt and all of the planets. Now, we appear to be the only planet with verdant life on it that has a history of life. And if that's the case, we're the most vulnerable of all the planets, because any tinkering in the sun's radiation or its gravitational field or its ability to control the wobble or spin or declination of our planet. We live in a very, very, very delicate orbital balance of factors, you see?
So it can have devastating effects on us, no doubt.
Even the slightest disruptive movement, even the slightest, if there should be a huge gravitational emanation from the sun or one from this passing object added to the sun's, it could set off a gigantic global earthquake. And we believe that this event has happened about every 36 to 4,000 years. Because that's when it seems that those periods in civilization all seem to crumble and halt for, I don't know, sometimes 500 years, like a jolt in time, you follow me?
Yes.
And that civilization is thrown back on itself. This has happened over and over and over again. And I think that what Roland Emmerich is trying to teach us or show us or scare us or instruct us, whatever it is, it's going to be a brilliant way to wake everybody up to that. Well, if you think you got it bad, just wait until your village washes away. Or how about if Delaware Bay receives 300 foot of water? It wouldn't be very pretty, would it?
No, it would not.
No. Now, I'm not talking about these things to scare people, Michael. I wrote a book in all seriousness because I believe that we are headed into the worst next 26 months that this planet and this earth and our government and our people are going to face. This whole thing about terrorism and the budget and the insurance and all that, it's all a very well-planned decoy. Where do you think all that money's really going, Michael? Do you realize they've only spent 7 to 11% of all that money that was set aside? You know that, right?
Right.
That's all that's been employed. I'll give you one. I think that they probably did something pretty bright. They probably have it tucked away in an account somewhere so that if we lose 1 or 2 cities, we can pump in 20, 30 billion at a time. You see, I don't see conspiracy everywhere, Michael. I see every event. I see every event that's taking place. Can we talk about the weather for just a second?
I would
Our
love
weather
it.
patterns around the planet have gone absolutely maniacal. Already,
Yeah, they sure have.
Colorado has had winter storms like they usually get in December, November, and January. What we're facing here is a little bit of, it's a failure of communication with Mother Nature. Mother Nature has given us every single indication of what was coming, and we're neither not reading it right because we don't want to, or we're not reading it right because we don't understand it, or we both understand it and don't want to talk about it but still don't know what to do about it. So I think what's happening is that movies that are coming out like this are going to get everybody ready psychologically. Do you realize that a movie like this could recondition the entire concept that the world has of cataclysm?
Oh, I know it. I know it.
That's how important the release of a movie like this is. And my guess is that they will use this to the benefit of the people. I'm not talking bad stuff here, Michael. We're talking reality. I think that our government, for whatever reason, is not so out of step with everything. They're getting some things right. And I think that we are getting prepared to handle this terrible period. I think that between now and 2012, I think that going into 2010, I think we're going to see some bigger and bigger natural disasters. I think there's going to be more tsunamis. I think the earthquakes are going to rise. And I think that the sun, sometime between 2010 and 2011, is going to come back on. Let me discuss that for just a second.
Okay.
Our sun is called a fusion sun. It's a G-rated star. Magnitude, about an 11 magnitude, I believe. It's not a great star like Arcturus, you see? Now, what is important, that without that star shining, we're over. Everything
absolutely.
is over, and it wouldn't take very long. So what we're dealing with is a very delicate balance of life and death on this planet if things really got out of whack. And I think that this object, which I believe now is only about another year out from actually totally being seen, I think that they're photographing it from the South Pole. There was I don't know, 2.5, 3 years ago, they spent, I don't know, 40, 50, 60 billion dollars, built this huge infrared telescopic array system at the South Pole. I don't think the Russians got on this one. I think it was totally a Western effort. And I think they've been getting pictures of this thing for at least 6, 8, 9, 10 months now.
Now,
And
why don't they share it with us?
They will. They will. They will. There's a
They're
process
taking their
going
sweet time.
Michael, there's a process going on. There is a giant brain controlling all of this. I don't want to go into the Illuminati thing, but, you know, there's a whole bunch of people running this show here on this planet. Now, I suppose that sounds very oversimplified. What are your facts? What are you talking about? Come on, everybody knows. Everybody knows. It's like in the Scully movies, you know?
Yeah.
Those guys in London meeting in that smoky room, and they were planning on experimenting with human beings. Not nice, right?
Right.
All right. So if all this is coming to pass, I think that we are headed into one of the most exciting periods of human evolution and human development, because if we survive this one, if we survive the natural disasters, do you realize that if the United States should be hit by an earthquake, let's say we have an earthquake that rattles from west to east, you see, that would be the way if a giant earthquake were to strike our planet, let's say coming up from the western portion of the Pacific, or I would say, well, in this case would be the eastern portion because it's coming against the west coast. It would hit the west coast first, could take out L.A., could take out San Diego, could take out Seattle, God forbid, San Francisco goes. And it would come forward. It might ignite Yellowstone. It could blow that. You know that Yellowstone is one of the super volcanoes. We have one right here in the middle of our country.
That was going to be one of my questions. I was going to ask you what the actual effects
all
would be.
of these terrible things could happen. Now, hopefully, if we take a jolt, you see, as this thing comes flying past it, you know, it does not come into the solar system. It's a flyby situation. It comes out of what we believe is the region of Orion, and it comes. And as it's coming in, it comes in either by planned design or just by some strange, weird circumstance. It comes in against the glare of the sun. In other words, it's when it returns back out on its orbit, it'll come through, pass through, takes about a year and a half for it to orbit out around the bottom of the sun and come back up and over and then out. It's the out part. It's when it's shot out back into space by the gravitational fields and the movement and the control of the sun. When it leaves through, it leaves a wave pattern. It's so massive. It could be 60 times the mass of Saturn. 60 times its mass. It would alter all types of electromagnetic fields, gravitational fields, time. There are such things as time fields and time zones. All of these things could be disrupted. So if that should happen, boy, we better have our first aid kits. And I'm not trying to be funny.
No, this is very serious.
It could be very serious and very devastating. Imagine if we lost Chicago. Okay, we lost Chicago. And if so, we disrupted one of the Great Lakes. And it flowed pell-mell westward into the Mississippi. Can you imagine what would happen if a portion of Lake Michigan broke through and was sent cascading down the Mississippi?
My God.
Edgar Casey spoke about it. He saw it. It would devastate. It would take Memphis out. I'm only 18 miles out of Memphis. I'm in the northwest corner of Mississippi in a little Civil War town called Horn Lake. Now, if something horrible like that should happen, it could also trigger the fault line along the Mississippi River. And this particular fault line hasn't erupted in probably 100 years, so it's ready to go. Now, that would have implications for cities like St. Louis and Memphis and all the bigger to small towns up and down the Mississippi River. And there are hundreds and hundreds, some big, some small, little cities and towns that meander down the Mississippi. They take them all out, or at least a portion of them. Now, you say, how can you say such things? I'm only telling you what the scientists are talking about. I'm not making this up. And I didn't write, you know, there are 150 books out right now, some of them like mine, not all like mine. By the way, can I give an 800 real quick? Do you mind?
Oh, please do.
All right. Everything, listen, everybody, everything we're talking about out there, please take me seriously. If you'd like to take a peek at my book, you can get an e-book or you can get a soft cover. It's a beautiful 342 illustrated pages. It's beautiful paper. Feels like Time Life book. 1-800-247-6553. Order a book real quick. 1-800-247-6553. You can just go to my website. I got a really great website. It's real simple. It's just returnofplanetx.com, right? Returnofplanetx.com. And there's a little hyphen between the T and the X. Now, even if I'm only partially right, and we lose 2 or 3 cities around the world, I'll have said, okay, we talked about it. Maybe somebody got the message. Some of these cities were prepared, and some of them escaped with small damage. The point of the matter is, I experienced the 1994 Northridge earthquake in California. I was living in a little area called Studio City, right near where they used to film the I Love Lucy show. And we were managing 3 buildings. We had about, 300 tenants in 3 buildings around there. We worked for a management company, and we lived in a beautiful, beautiful 50s bungalow type apartment with a pool. And it was 4:22 in the morning on March 17th, 1994. And this earthquake hit, and I said to myself, Mister, you're going to die tonight. Listen, the wall shook, the ceiling started to buckle. I knew the foundation was going. I could hear the windows shattering. I was thrown back and forth against my headboard. I had about 14 to 15 bruises. My ankle felt like it was sprained, being thrown up and out of bed and onto the floor. The interesting thing about that earthquake, and I hope we don't run out of time.
No, actually, we're going to go a second hour. I'm going to take a break in just a few minutes, and then we're going to come back. So, but go ahead. We got a few more minutes yet before the break.
The interesting thing about that earthquake was that strange, weird, silly metaphysical things always happen to me. I'll tell you why that whole experience was so special for me. Not only did I almost get killed by the building I lived in, you know, they didn't absolutely dig us out, but they sure had to come and rescue us, okay? Was that there were after the earthquake hit, there was no phone service for at least 4 to 5 square miles. In other words, if you put a circle out around my house, my apartment, there weren't any phones. There was no electricity. There was nothing for about 2.5 to 3 miles. No telephones, no electricity, no power, nothing. It was completely dead. And guess where the only single phone to come out of an area called Studio City was? My personal telephone in my bedroom was on its back, and it still worked. Now, what are the odds of that? So where do you think FEMA set up shop? Where do you think they got? Michael? They said, well, it's really imperative that we ask you if we could use your house as our headquarters because we have no way to get a phone out of here. So I hung out with FEMA for the next 14 days, And I know the real story about that earthquake from the moment it began until it ended. But maybe that's another show.
Okay.
All right?
Well, okay, that's fine.
All right. Now, what I want to do is I want to get this Planet X thing firmly implanted so we understand what it is, what it isn't.
Okay.
What's real and what's not real. Okay. Just to refresh this thing real quick. Number one, Planet X is not a planet. We believe it's a small brown dwarf star, possibly the size of Saturn, or possibly only as small as our moon. But whatever it is, it's powerful, it's compact, it could be 60% the mass of Jupiter, and when it comes swinging anywhere near our solar system, listen, it could be 500 million miles from the sun. We don't think it's going to be that far. We think it's going to come in much closer. But as it's coming in, it starts changing the dynamics of the sun. It has to. It's the law of motion. It's Kepler's law. It's all of these things, you know, cosmically and astronomically that all make sense. And besides, all the ancients told us this was happening. You see, that's what's so beautiful about the book. By the way, this would be a great Star Trek movie. By the way, I got the next Star Trek movie. And
oh, do you?
Yeah, I got it all. Well, I was so fortunate. I got to know Mr. Gene Roddenberry personally ever since 1974, and I saw him. I'd come to California. We'd ride in his red Corvette. We'd go have Greek food at a restaurant of his that he didn't own it, that he liked. We talked. I spent a whole week with him in 1974, and we worked out, and I've kept this to myself all this time. I worked out with him the concept to bring back a Star Trek 10 years later. He was thinking so far in advance that he knew which Star Trek picture that he thought would meet the moment of the time. If you noticed, all of his Star Trek movies had a theme. And each of them kind of dealt with things that were either topical or things that had meaning or related to things that were happening on the Earth. Sometimes they would seem kind of hidden, but they were always there. All right.
Okay.
I worked out with Gene what I think is the best way to bring Star Trek back. So maybe we'll end tonight. I'll leak that story because I've already written it. It's already registered, so I can leak it. How's that?
All right. That's great. That's
all right?
great.
All right.
All right.
Now, all right. So back to the present moment. We think that this object is incoming, has been incoming. It's now emerging out from the glare of the sun. It's going to come up and underneath from the southern quadrant of the heavens as we view them, up underneath the southern hemisphere of this planet. And when it comes up and around, it's going to be on its moment of being hurled and propelled way back out into space again to begin this long, narrow, elliptical orbit that goes way out beyond Pluto, way out into the far reaches. Now, I'm going to add one little more part at that point. In other words, it was like, okay, cut. Okay, it's been hurled out into space. Now, some authors and some researchers believe that there is, in fact, a third sun connected with our sun system, and that these suns were supposed to create like a triangle of light and power. Now, this is not so strange in star systems. Star systems often align themselves like the Three Sisters and certain the stars of Taurus, for instance. All of the constellations tie into heavy, deep mythological mysteries. And when we look back and try to figure out what they mean, they're easy to interpret if we allow ourselves the understanding of a religious import, but without the dross. You know what I mean by dross on a sword? When you purge a sword in the steel, you get rid of its dross. It's hard to do that in terms of religion, politics, science, and research. It's
Dr. Rand, can you please hold that thought for just
Sure.
a minute? And we're
Sure.
coming to the end of the hour, so I'm going to take a quick break, and we'll be back in about 2 minutes. Okay?
Yes, sir.
With Dr. Rand, and we are talking about the return of Planet X. And wow, some really, really interesting stuff here tonight. Just hang on the line, and I will get to your calls. I know there are a few people who are trying to call in. Just hang on, and we'll get to you at some point in the second hour. So, yeah, we are talking with Dr. Rand. And Dr. Rand, hello, we are back.
Thank you, sir. I'm glad to be back with you guys.
I'm glad to have you back.
Should we kind of try to pick up and run with it right where we were?
Yes, we should.
All right.
Okay.
So we were talking about the fact that this thing reads like a science fiction novel, a Star Trek episode, if you will. But the funny thing is, it's all true, and it's all based on fact, and it comes with science and research, and this whole business of the human element at this moment in time is very interesting to look at. It really, really is interesting. You have the old, dynamic of the good guys and the bad guys, and you're the evil guys, the terrorists, and you're the good guys. You're the soldiers in the field, right? But what is so beautiful about that is that that's the way it really is, This one isn't a movie. This particular moment that you and I are having on the telephone is a very real moment, while all of the other moments are taking place out and beyond us in the world. We're secure at the moment, you and me. We're on the phone together. But just imagine if one of those madmen over there, one of the bad guys, well, let's say they do pop off an atomic weapon somewhere. Oh, boy, don't you think the fun starts then? Huh?
Oh,
Even a small one will ignite this hornet's nest like you have never seen it ignited before. So I'm saying that not only are we facing one of the most volatile, dangerous periods of human evolution and human sanity on the planet, we're also facing a period when this beautiful world that we live in and should be mothering and loving and serving instead of destroying is about to experience her own pangs of change, and they have nothing to do with mankind. You see this celestial object coming? I don't know who planned it, and I don't know who controls it, or if it's just the way it is, but it seems that whenever the planet gets really, really, really a little bit crazy out of whack, ka-wham, this object comes slamming through the outer reaches of our solar system, and things change. Going back to a biblical point of view, we think that the last time this particular event, as it's about to happen again, happened, we think that Wormwood, or Planet X, returned around 1447 BCE, 1447 BCE. That's before the Common Era. Now, that year, 1447 BC, just seems to be the year that most modern-day archaeologists and theologists and scientists and researchers believe that Moses was leading the Israelites out of bondage in Egypt. As the story goes, they were in bondage for about 400 years, and Moses, was born to a common woman, and he was found, on the Nile. And I'm sure you've seen the biblical movie Moses when he takes the Israelites out. Now, let's suppose all that's real, and I think that it probably was. Okay. This would be one of these times where all of a sudden it's not Moses rescuing his people. Abba, God the Father, he's going to come and take care of the flock. That we tie that into the 12:20, the 12:21:12 numerical thing. Abba, Father comes, Father is coming. I think that all of this is just as real as it sounds fanciful. And the beautiful part about it is Those who see that have eyes and ears will know and understand, and those that don't won't. Now,
Okay.
that's a real simple premise, but it's true. If you want to know the truth, if you don't care what the truth is, if you don't care about what's happening in your future, you realize why the next moment of your future is so important to you? Because that's where you're going to live. The rest of your human life is in the future. So you should be thinking about the future all the time. Not nutso, not frantically, but what you should be thinking about is, what would I do if your fair city, all right, let's just talk about you, Michael.
Okay, Columbia.
Yeah, let's say Columbia was hit by a moderate 4, 5, 5, 6 earthquake that pretty badly shook the city, knocked out all your power, all your telecommunications, buckled a couple of highways, pretty much shut Columbia down. You're the state capital, right?
Right.
Imagine if the state capital of Columbia was badly shaken by an earthquake. It would impact every single thing happening to every single resident of, first of all, the state of South Carolina, and then it would radiate out like the waves of an atom bomb. It would go out 200-300 miles for just one event.
Wow.
And imagine if Columbia didn't have any electricity, no hospitals, or nothing for, let's say, 5 days.
It would be total chaos, sir.
It would be anarchy, and I say that not in an evil way. What are people to do, okay?
We actually got a little view of that with New Orleans,
yes,
how crazy that got.
Absolutely. So you see, Mike, when I talk about these things, I'm not trying to scare people. I don't have to scare anybody. All I got to do is read the newspaper, watch TV. In the last 14 days, we've had 6 major earthquakes in the mid-Pacific. We've had no less than 4 to 5 tidal waves. We've lost probably 4, 5, 6,000 people, and of course, everything is just normal according to the media.
Yeah, of course.
Nothing. They're busy talking about insurance stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Which isn't going to make a pile of beans. Did you know what? All this isn't going to make any difference anyway. I don't think
a lot of it won't even exist.
It won't exist. I hate to be so blunt. I hate to have everybody out there thinking, God, he's gloom and doom. God, get him off. Listen. Just look around you. You don't have to take me seriously. Just look around you. The state of the economy, the state of the jobs, the nuts in North Korea and in Iran and Russia going nuts trying to get the gas rights in Europe to strangle and hold, and we're right back to where we were in South America, it's going communist again. Oh my God, Michael, where do I stop?
Exactly.
Where do I stop? And by the way, I didn't say one thing that wasn't true that wasn't happening right now.
Oh, I know it. It's crazy. It's the things that are going on.
And this is relatively calm.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
What happens if the big pot is stirred and some stupid idiot makes a move? Now, here's another thing I fear. If we should have some kind of a nasty global series of disasters, I think those bad boys would do their work as quickly as possible, because once we're down, even partially, that's when you strike.
Right.
You strike by surprise, like a snake in the grass.
But wouldn't they be down as well?
It all depends how well prepared they are. I would venture to guess that there are sleeper cells in every single major city in the world. I
believe
guarantee
that too.
you there are, and they're all just poised and they're waiting. If anybody touches Iran with a bomb, all hell will break loose. And I don't want to go political tonight. That wasn't the purpose of our talk together tonight.
Oh, I understand.
But I think you see that what I'm looking at is a totally polarized reality of government and substance and religion and anarchy and terrorism and fanaticism. It's like, just, everybody stop, will you? Well, guess what would happen? If there was a major global earthquake event and it shut down all the continents, well, guess what? Can't fire no rockets, and you ain't got no fuel, and you ain't got no guns that are going to work because things might be wet.
Well, doesn't it say
that would certainly, wouldn't that level off the playing field? Wouldn't it just go like, whoosh, just like that?
Sticks and stones.
Absolutely. So I'm looking forward to a future, Mike, that may have some of these problems. Listen, I'd be the first one to say, Mike, I was wrong. Nothing happened, Mike. Oh, I'm so embarrassed, Mike. Let me come on your show and make an apology. Mike, I'll do anything. You know, I don't think I'm going to have to do that. Now, by the same token, I'm not
almost
making light
sorry
of it.
to hear that.
Yeah. No, but I'm not making light of it. What I'm saying is, I kind of see the writing on the wall, and you know what they used to do to the messenger, don't you? You brought him bad news. What'd they do to the messenger?
They shot him.
He died right then and there. He's finished. He was erased. So I don't want to be erased. No, that was a very serious thing. I read a Greek story once, and it was incredible. Anyway, the point is that people like yourself now are willing to talk about what could be the future for all of your fellow citizens of Columbia, South Carolina, just as an example. For instance, does everybody have at least 5 gallons of water per person for, let's say, less than 2 to 3 weeks? You need food, you need medicine, you need aspirin, you need cat food, you need dog food, you need cat litter, you need bird seed. All of these things that we just go, oh, that's right. No money, money will have to, it'll be barter for a while, like after the earthquake in Northridge. One little restaurant opened, and it was just good faith. She'd tell you how much it was, and if you had the money, you put it down. If you didn't, because people had nowhere to eat. There was no fresh water. Well, we were told not to drink the water, so nobody knew, But anyway, it was like back to the soup kitchen, and it was so unbelievable. And I thought to myself, what a thing to write about. So I kind of touch upon this in the book as like, oh my gosh, what would happen if? And chapter 7 is real special in the book. It's called Order Out of Chaos. And it's all about what the government knows, what the government doesn't know, what the government should know, what the government will tell us, what they probably have already done. For instance, under Clinton, I think it was 92, he signed into law the Emergency Martial Law Act. It means that any current president, regardless of his party, regardless of the moment, if he, in his presidential wisdom and just of mind, says, martial law time, he whips it out of his desk. That's where it's kept, by the way. It's kept in his desk. Remember in the National Treasure movies, all those secret things in the desk?
Yeah.
That's all real. They got secret compartments all over. So he's got his own secret compartment. That's how it is with that desk, you see. But now I'm giving away all these secrets for free here. Got to read my next book, okay?
Okay.
No. So he goes in there, he gets out his martial law thing, and he looks up at his wife and his kids, and he goes, well, kids, this is it. And he signs it into law. That's it. The city, Washington, automatically goes to a military lockdown. The word is spread out. All the National Guard units are then dispersed to each of the major cities and along the border, which probably wouldn't be a bad idea, except that the entire country would theoretically be locked down for peaceful purposes. Now, once you've achieved that, don't you dare get caught with a gun, you follow me?
Oh, yeah.
That would not be a good thing, because what they'll do is they will put an emergency call out to collect all weapons and ammunition. And that's when the fun begins. Now, the question is, will the Pentagon and the military and the National Guard, here's the question, would they actually do that to their fellow citizens, and would they arrest those that are really violent and put them in these detention camps? which are supposedly already built. You know, there's 1,000 conspiracy things out there. But I've heard from lots of sources and different things, and there does appear to be some camp-like emplacements out in the Nevada desert and possibly New Mexico and things like that. Now, if we are headed to a difficult period, we each ought to be aware of who we are, why we are, where we live, how we're living. What would I do for a 10-day disruption, a 20-day, and a 30-day disruption of my normal life with my 3 kids and my lovely wife, my dog, cat, 2 parakeets, and what? A snake. Okay? It would be a complete change of your reality and your adjustment to what appears to be a normal reaction to what every day is frustrating enough, right? I mean, it's just what's going on right now. I can't wait to get home, actually, sometimes, cook myself some good dinner. By the way, I come from a cooking heritage. I have a very weird, wild, wacky family history to tell you sometime. I'll give you one little tidbit, and I won't say anymore. My grandfather on my mother's side, I'm half Sicilian and half German, Polish, Ukraine, and Russian. The Italian side of me, the Sicilian side, my grandfather, my mother's father, comes from the old country where he was a master wine grower, master barber, master chef, and he was also part-time mayor for Palermo, Sicily. Well, if you know anything about Palermo, it's the head of the mafia, always has been. Okay, now, it just turns out that while he was there and he was a young man, he fought the fascists on behalf of the little country of Sicily. It was still a little country then, and he became very famous as a cavalry captain, leading many battles. And then the mafia discovered how good a wine he made, what kind of a chef he was, and kind of a barber he was, and so they had him working as a young man for them, just as a winemaker, a chef, and a cook. I mean, as a barber. Okay. So when he gets chased by the fascists, they drive him over here. Long story short, my grandfather moved to the extreme south side of Chicago, and for about 22 years, he was Al Capone's personal chef for parties and big functions, his personal barber, well, actually one of 3, but the one on the south side, and he made all wine creations for him. He had his own little factory thing. So
interesting.
I come from a very interesting political background. My mother was in politics. How old were you in 1968? This will go real quick.
Well, I wasn't born yet. I was born in 71. So.
Okay. In 1968, it was a very critical Democratic convention year for the Democrats because the war was raging in Vietnam, and they had a presidential election coming up in 1968, and Johnson was ready to throw in the towel with Vietnam, so he didn't want to have to deal with Vietnam. That became Nixon's thing to solve, because what happened was that Johnson bellied out of the convention. I mean, out of the presidential bid just before the convention began in August of 1968, and that threw the convention into chaos. And what happened was, it just so happened that the anti-war movement, which was made up of the Black Panthers and the SDS, and I can go on and on and on and on, they caused this huge riot in Chicago. It was called the riots of '68, and it spawned a trial called the Conspiracy 7 trial. Have you ever heard of that?
Yes, I have.
All right. It was one of the most famous civil rights and federal rights trials in the history of the country. My mother was a deputy sheriff at the time, and she was selected. She became the matron of the Conspiracy 8, then 7 jury. And I lived with that for. She had to go into secret. She was sequestered with the jury. It was a long story, but there's a whole story with that. The point of the matter is, I've had lots of really great, interesting things that have happened in my life, which has given me the opportunity to be a writer. By the way, let me say one thing. I've been in the record business since I was 18. I used to be a recording artist. Then I became a producer. I got, I don't know, about 35 or 40 gold and platinum records. Yeah, big. Yeah, I have three different sides to my life. I have the musician, then I have the entertainer part. Me used to sing and dance in my own band and all that. And then I have the business side. Got a couple of publishing companies and management and some real estate stuff. So, but the point of the matter is, it takes a fountain of knowledge to really craft one's perspective on what is the truth and what's not the truth. And I bring up my past accomplishments to let you know that this comes with a great amount of work and stress and understanding just to produce one-hit record and know exactly what makes it work. I was fortunate enough to have a string of like 30, 40, 50 number one hits, just hit after hit after hit. It's because I understood what the culture wanted. So when I went to write this book, I said, okay, now let's see what's at the heart of what the world's culture really thinks and understands. So that's another reason why I wrote the book, The Return of Planet X. So it's like a teacher, you know, writing a book that he would think that the students who are interested would want to study and learn about, because it's all about the future of this planet, like it's happening right now with you and I on the phone, entertaining each other.
I have a great interest in this stuff. I mean, it's just I mean, for many years I listened to a show before I started this one called Coast to Coast AM, and they cover so much of this stuff. And I mean, I have been fascinated with it for years.
Oh, it's a great show. It's a really great show. I've been on several times. And I've been listening since '93, and I don't think I've missed not one night. I've always listened to it. Well, you see, there's an old adage, where there's smoke, there's fire. Now, his audience is huge. It's in the millions.
Oh, I know it.
So, are all these people delusional who listen to the show? Are they all nuts for thinking what they're thinking? You see, I have a whole different perspective on what's really going on here. This whole political thing is nothing but a distraction. I don't care who's in, who's out. It's nothing but they're just playing the game. And I think what they're doing is they're getting ready for this rough period coming. Like I alluded to earlier, I think all that money that was allocated, and is probably sitting in some super vault somewhere. See, I think it's actual gold and it's actual cash. I don't think it's just, you know, a note for $1 trillion. You probably
I agree with you. And you know, I think
it's there for a big emergency. So if that is the case, goody for them. Okay, give the boss some credit here, if that's the case.
Right.
Or it could be that they wind up using it for that reason, not knowing that what's coming. You see how delicate this? It is part of a plan or it's not. I think it's part of a plan, personally.
Yeah, you know, I think the higher government is very aware of what's coming, and I think I've even heard rumors of
I don't see evil and bad in all that. You know, most people go, oh, what is the government doing? I think they're doing probably the best that they can under the existing circumstances.
Right.
However, why they're spending their time doing what they're doing, I'm not sure, other than it's a perfect disguise. And then we've got this nonsense going on over in Afghanistan. We got a big problem on our hands there. Much bigger than I think the administration figured.
And it keeps getting worse, and you just got to wonder, where's it actually going to end?
So, added to all this, whoa, my gosh, listen what's going to happen. I have to tell you that I think there's another element, this Planet X thing, this wormwood, this object coming in. You know that our sun, our present sun right now, should be coming to a peak period in what's known as its 11-year solar cycle. Our sun goes through a series of cycles that last about 11 years long, from peak output performance, solar flaring, and disruption to quiet. It's an 11-year cycle. weirdly, we should be nearing the top of a top cycle. We're not.
So would that mean solar flare?
Well, we not necessarily a solar flare, but the sun's eruption patterns have changed. She's quiet. There are very few solar outbursts, very few gigantic storms of any nature. It's relatively quiet. It's like it's sleeping, and it's been this way now for about 6-8 months. Now they're not telling us about that, and they don't know what to make of it because it's never happened before. You see where I'm going with this? All these things point to one thing. I could be right. I still could be wrong, but I got another piece.
I really hope you are wrong, but
I do too. But that's why that's why I wrote the book. I didn't believe any of it myself. I really honestly said, "Oh, come on." Okay. Do you ever do a term paper, and do you ever use 3x5s to map out your idea for a term paper or any kind of a project?
Yes, I have had to.
3x5s on a wall?
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm. I had about 2,400 of them. And I eventually had to put all the pieces together, and suddenly these 3x5 cards became like a mosaic of ideas, and the whole thing fit like a giant picture puzzle. It was fascinating when I finally I went, oh yeah, there it is. That's where the finger points.
Now, do you think that this Planet X coming in closer, do you think that has a lot to do with a lot of the UFO sightings and reports?
All tied together. It's all tied together. Oh, I'm so glad you asked. That's another thing. We could probably do a whole show on UFOs and ETs. By the way, I've been a UFO researcher since I was 11. Now I'll drop the real bombshell on you, and you'll have to take me at my word. I'm known as a contactee. A contactee is someone who has had contact with or is in intelligent contact with an extraterrestrial intelligence. At age 11, actually it started when I was much earlier, but at age 11, this experience that I was having since age 6, 7, 8, and 9. You know what OBEs are, out of bodies?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Starting at about age 4 and a half, I started having conscious OBEs, even as a very small child. I was taken from my bed, not taken like an abducted. Whoa, not abducted. It was even at the age of 4, I was communicating with them, and it was a yes. I want to go for a ride. I started going to a classroom session. Happened 3-4 times a week, sometimes less, sometimes more, and I was paired with an ET child from another planetary system and another star system, and this was their way of learning from us, because they had just discovered us. This was back in 1951. Wow, what are you talking about? We now believe that there are between 87 and 92 known different extraterrestrial intelligence systems. See, it's each group of ETs has their own system. We have our own system, okay? We have the metric system. We have language. You see, our planet is a system. It's part of a solar system. Most ETs have their own system of dynamics, and each one is as different as the other, just as each human being is distinctly different, as each snowflake is distinctly different. It's really, really scary how everything is very simple. It's so simple you go, I never thought of that before. All right. Now, this particular extraterrestrial intelligence system is from a planet in the star system of Arcturus, which is a huge presence in the sky. And the planet is called Epsilon, which is Greek for 5. It's the 5th planet from the sun. By the way, it's believed they have 2 suns. They have a blue sun and they have a yellow light sun. 2 suns.
Okay.
And They don't live on their planet anymore. They live on creations called space platforms. They live on E3 Prom. E3 Prom. I have a graphical representation of it. I can't go there right now because it'll go off into a whole new story spin about who created the paintings. They travel. They crisscross the universe. They move on electromagnetic beams of energy and light that they've learned how to capture. This thing that everybody calls dead, empty, ethereal space, it's loaded with energy. You just have to learn how to tap into it. So they've got these advanced systems. Mind you, they're about this ET culture. They call themselves the Fourth Racers. Fourth, F-O-U-R-T-H hyphen Racer, R-A-C-E-R. It took me 10 years. I wrote a book with them. It's called The Cosmic Blueprint for After, and it'll be another book that I'm going to be offering very shortly.
Okay.
They are about 375,000 years in advanced evolution to Earthlings. Just accept.
Now, do you think that they'll be making their appearance here? I mean, will that ever come out?
I think that not only them, but there'll be many, many others. The point is, throughout these historical accounts, there always seems to be an element where there's a whole bunch of people that disappear. The Mayans literally disappeared. They were the ones trying to tell us about this, you see?
Yeah.
This whole Mayan thing, maybe we should touch on that for just a second. This whole Mayan end of time thing, it's not the end of time like it's going to be the end of time and we're all going to die and the earth is going to blow up and we'll be dead. No. What's going to happen is that there's going to be a complete death to this particular culture and our way of doing life. I think it's part of some huge divine plan, like what happened when Moses was leading the Israelites. Going back to that for a second, all the things that were attributed, all the miracles that were attributed to his rod, remember? Brought the locusts and the storms, and he stopped the sun, and all the firstborn died, and his rod ate up all the other snakes and the locusts and the rivers turning red. All of those dynamics are elements of what happens when wormwood comes dangerously through or near a solar system, because it itself has a solar wind, and it gives off this awful reddish, rusty dust. It's in the book. All of this, once again, everything we're talking about is in the book. If you'd like to get a book, I'm going to sneak a commercial in. If you'd like to get a book, but everything that Mike and I are talking about, as wild as it sounds, as crazy as it seems, is all true. I document it. I talk about it. It's in a book called The Return to Planet X. It's 1-800-247-6553, 1-800-247-6553. By the way, just for the fun of it, if anybody at the White House is listening, I've sent 2 books already, and I have yet to get a reply that they were received. You see, as a good citizen, Mike, what I'm trying to do, I'm going to give one to the kids and one to the president. How do you think that's going to go over?
Probably not so well.
I think just the opposite. I'm confident.
Really?
Oh, I think the girls will love it. I do. I really do. And I think he ought to give it to his science advisor and let her look at it. Because it could be a blueprint for them how to deal with this. I got a great idea. I hope they're listening. I've got a great idea how they could release all of this information that we've got stored on UFOs and come clean. And we could do it by putting together a reality show. And the name of the show is called In Contact. And we have these 2 bright actors, the guy from the talent show that we all love so much. I can't think of it right now.
America's Got Talent?
American Idol. Oh, okay. Ryan Seacrest, somebody like that, And we start talking about all these files that are being released. Just give it up. Just give it up. Just like that. Because they'll still not give you the files that they don't want you to see. See how simple?
Yeah, exactly. It's just like everything that goes in the public
it's just like this
They
great
black
big.
out what they don't want you to see.
No, they could be releasing stuff for us for 5 years and not get all of it out, and we still wouldn't see the best of the best of the best. But
Right.
this is the way we open the door to let the people not be afraid. It isn't about releasing the UFO files. That isn't it at all. It's getting everybody ready. I think that there's going to be a sudden change in the amount of sightings and the amount of landings that are going to happen. Mexico is already on fire. Russia's on fire. Japan is on fire.
Yeah, did you see that? It was in the news. It was like, I seen it on the internet in Moscow. That big circular, it looked like a mothership coming out of the clouds.
Mm-hmm.
You by any chance get a look at that?
No, but I heard about it. I have
Yeah.
Russian colleagues that are involved in the UFO field there. But jumping back to the most immediate situation in our hand, and that is what about tomorrow? Okay, if any of these things that we've talked about suddenly flares up, we're in big trouble.
Yeah, we are.
We're in big trouble. I recommend. By the way, our book is also available in ebook for half the price. The book doesn't cost a lot of money. You can get 2-day shipping. Amazon.com. Any bookstore, just go in and ask for the Return to Planet X, Dr. Jason Rand. I'm on all their book catalogs. They don't take you off. I'm in my 3rd printing, so thank you very much. I'm very humble and grateful for that. But the book is one that you want to share with your friends and family, even the kids. Hell, sit down with the dog, okay, and say, listen, guys, you better listen to me because things are going to get rough. So no messing around. No.
And I do have that posted on both my show pages, and I'm presently getting a website up. I'm working on it now, and I will put that on there as well.
I'm going to email you something just prior to coming on your show tonight.
Okay.
Somebody sent me an email, and it was the most humbling, the most soul-searching event, and it set me up for this interview, and I am so grateful. It's based upon, so you think you got it bad, right? And it opens up with these 3 people wading almost up to their neck in water in the Philippines, and this guy's got a wash bucket, and in the wash bucket is his little baby, and he's hoping not to drop it. And the caption is, and you think you got it bad. This lady's stepping out of a car, and she's got an umbrella, and she's all upset. Things like that. So I'm gonna post it. I personally am going to get permission to post it on my website.
Okay, great.
I think it's that important that everybody. It's like this wonderful reality check. Can you imagine having a chain on you and you walk too far and too fast in the chain, and you go bam and it pulls you back? Well, that's what I call a reality check, right?
Right.
This gave me a reality check to do the show with you tonight, and I'm grateful to the universe. This woman, I have no idea who she is, sent me this. She said something like, you need to read this as soon as possible. And I'm saying, thank you, universe. You see, I go with the flow, Mike. Go with the flow. You have
that's right.
In order to stay on your feet and stay in the game, you know that thing, you need some face in the game. Well, life is like that. We can sit by and let it happen to us, or we can take charge. I used to teach a class in metaphysics. It was called Reality Engineering 101. It's a real interesting concept, where I would talk to people about how they can change their reality just by the power of their thought. You see?
Okay.
I guess we're going way off on a metaphysical tangent here, but all of these things play into the kind of life I've had the opportunity to lead, and the kind of people that I've studied under and met. Now, being in the entertainment business, I've met hundreds and hundreds of stars and big name actors and things. But the point of the matter is, I had to stay on my game. I had to stay on my mission. I had to get this book written, because that's part of what my education we started to talk about when I was on the ship as a kid. Between 4 and, let's say, 8, I would have these out-of-body sessions, and they were so real I couldn't wait to go at night. We would go into this classroom setting. I remember there were these big, comfortable leather seating chairs, and my my ET friend's name was Elon, A-A-L-O-N, A-A-L-O-N, Elon. And he was a fourth racer. Now, he was about my age, he was about 4, 5, 6, or 7. But their 4, 5, 6, 7 is way beyond our 4, 5, 6, 7. He's probably more like 12, 13, 14. So he was able to shepherd me and help me and bring me through this. Basically, I'm part of a huge cosmic experiment. They do this all the time. We know about them, but we don't understand why they do it. I know, I understand, I was a part of it, where they pair up an extraterrestrial intelligence with a human intelligence, and it has affected, and the classroom settings that I've had set me up for things in a very strange metaphysical way. I'm like a tuning fork. I'm very, very, very well tuned. By the way, I'm 70 years old.
Really?
And I look about 50, and I act 35.
You sound like you're about 35.
Well, it's, Mike, living is all about understanding who you are, what you are, why you are, and when you are in time, and then trying to figure out, okay, so what do I do with it? What do I do with all this that I've suddenly discovered? Okay? What you need to do is you need to take focus. None of us focus anymore. There's too much stuff going on, you know? There really is, Mike.
Oh, I know it.
Just turn on the TV, man. I don't care what channel. Oh, I remember when the Weather Channel used to be all about the pleasant things of life and weather, and now it's all about the next disaster and the next storm and the next this. They've got programs about storms and disasters of the past and when weather changed history. And whew, we get it, people. We get it. The weather stinks.
Yeah, the weather definitely has changed, too. I mean,
all over the planet. It's not just here. We talked about
before I left New York to move to South Carolina, we had in December, the whole month of December, just a couple years back, we had 67 degrees all month long, and that's very unusual for New York.
Yes, extremely. Now, I don't know about this winter. Now, what has amazed me is that there has been no serious hurricanes this year.
Yeah, isn't that weird?
Nothing.
So that means
there's been a couple of little. There's one brewing right now off of Baja, but nothing that rips your gut out. Okay.
Right.
That makes me really worried about 2010 because I think
that makes me worried too.
I think the sun is going to come back on again, and when it comes back on, it's going to start heating up the water again. See, the water's cooled off. That's all that's happening.
What do you think is in store for the entire East Coast? Is it, is it really going to be that bad?
Maybe. Could be. It all depends.
I've heard stories of, like, the ocean just, extending quite a bit. And then there's a new movie that's out. They show California going right in the ocean. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing stuff.
I would say this. I'm going to hope for the best. The best that could happen is that we get some earthquakes around the country that aren't really that serious. We're going to probably take some hits. I don't think there's any way to get away completely clean. It would have.
Yeah, I know I sit on a fault line right now too.
Okay.
It's something I'm not used to, but I do know.
Okay. Well, what we have to do is we have to take some precautions. In Chapter 8, we talk about the need to examine your personal relationship with your life. The who, what, when, where, and why, and what am I going to do about it. The quicker we take this responsibility on, the quicker we're going to prepare. Something could happen at any time. I know it happened to me. I've been in at least 4 earthquakes now. That was the most serious. That one was the most serious. They're real. I've been through 3 hurricanes. They're real. I lived down in Florida for 11 years when I was in the record business. This is where I produced all the records. And I used to be A&R director for, KC and the Sunshine Band Company, TK Records.
Yeah.
I used to be the A&R director for TK Records. And I worked with KC and all these artists. And I had produced 8 or 9 artists of my own. So I understand about how the media works. And that's given me the ability now to figure out how to reach deeper into the media. Now, I'm expecting that there's going to be a major event. I don't know what it is. Could be a bad storm or an earthquake or something. And that will immediately trigger interest in my book, because I'm predicting that it's going to start to happen going into January, February of 2010. So, you know what we might...
just a little more than a year away.
We should probably set a redate, and we can bring each other up to speed on what's going on. How about that sometime?
I would love that.
And have people send in questions. They can send in any question they like.
I would definitely love that. We did have some people holding on to talk, but I think as it got later,
they fell off. Well, but it's important we get a chance to talk like this.
Yeah, it is. It really
People
is.
get to hear another side of reality.
Yeah, exactly.
That they wouldn't normally be able to hear. Now, once I get a major television show, this whole game changes, not only for me, but for the effort and the work that I'm working on. And it's coming. I know it's coming. So I'm on a mission right now. I'm on a mission.
I definitely believe something's coming, and you know, and you could almost feel it in the energy and around you. You know,
if you're open to the universe, of course you can tune right into it. Make sense?
Yes, it makes very good sense.
And what everybody needs to understand is that there's no need for fear. There's no need for panic. We have plenty of time. We still have, I think, another 8, 9, 10, 12 months before the bottom drops. And going into 2012 ain't going to be pretty. And guess what that year is? That's an election year. Oh, my gosh, I forgot about that.
Yeah, you're right. It is.
Won't that be an interesting election?
It sure will.
Huh?
It sure will.
So you see, it could be the end of time.
Yeah.
So what are you doing for Halloween? Are you going to party it up?
No, actually on Halloween I'll actually be on the air. I'm doing a special show. I'm going to have a couple guests on that night.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, one's on haunted houses, and another one is on somebody who actually passed away and came back, and so that'll be interesting. Anyway.
Oh, it should be. It should be. And listen, I am so grateful for this opportunity. It isn't often that I get a forum where I can just let this thing go. You know, other than they throw question after question at me, and I answer them all. But this way, you got kind of a slice of it that most people don't. Is this recorded by any means?
Yes, it is. Yeah, it'll be in the archives, and as the weeks go on, I mean, people will just continue to listen to it. Anyone who's missed.
Can you send me an MP3?
Oh, absolutely.
Would you do that?
I sure will.
Oh, great.
I sure will do that.
To hear it. I'd love to hear it back.
And I look so forward to having you on again, too.
All right.
See, I didn't want to interrupt you a lot because you had a lot of really good information. And when I have a guest like you, I try not to, you know, go question crazy because you pretty much answered all the questions I was going to ask. So it worked out pretty good. You made my job easy.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. How much time do we have left?
We have about 5 minutes left.
All right. Why don't we wrap this up and set us up for next time? Okay.
Okay.
Right.
Sounds good to me.
Listen. Once again, let me restate my position.
Okay.
This is not all about gloom and doom, and it doesn't mean the end of the world, and it doesn't mean we're all going to die, and it doesn't mean we can't deal with it. It does mean that there could well be a major disruption to everyone's normal lifestyle and their amenities. So if that's the case, unless you were a citizen of New Orleans, can you imagine, Michael, what that must have been like?
Oh, horrible.
Horrible.
It had to be horrible. And I mean, I remember
how about
Galveston
Island? And how about Galveston Bay and the Houston Ship Channel? That wasn't pretty either.
No, not at all.
And what about Andrew and David? And I can go on and on and on. I am afraid that we are going to be entering into a severe, elongated period of hurricanes. I think that the closer this object becomes, the weirder the sun's going to act, and it's going to really heat things up. And that's what causes this increase in our hurricanes, and they could come all over the world. Now, either that or it could trigger earthquake activity. So we need to be prepared. We need to be we need to look at our home situation, our safety situation, our pets, food, dried food, powdered milk, spices if you think you need them, canned meats, canned fish, the kinds of things that will last. Lots of macaroni and cheese, okay? You can probably get water. All you have to do is boil it. See?
Right.
All right.
So,
think
really
common
quick
sense
before
things like that.
Is there any place that's going to be safer? I mean, is there any spot that might be safer than others, or is this just a guess?
You definitely want to be east of the Rockies.
Okay.
You don't want to be west of the Rockies. That section could really, because, see, the way the continent is constructed, the Rockies are what came up last. You follow me?
Right.
And everything to the west of the Rockies is just add-on stuff that kept getting munched up and munched up and munched up as the Pacific plate dove under the North American plate. See? So that's going to, if it's really serious, that'll crumble. It'll break off.
Ooh, not good.
Not good. Not good.
Not good at all.
Not good at all. Now, these are extreme things. I'm talking about total whacked, okay? Like in Roland, this is like out of Roland Emmeringer's 2012, okay? We lose the whole West Coast. Bye! And the Midlands come up, and the Rockies come up, and the Midland comes up. No. Probably the prairie states could be the most safest. But I think there could be minimal earthquake system. I'm very worried about the Mississippi River and the Mississippi Valley. The New Madrid Fault, which is the fault I alluded to earlier, could be very, very dangerous. And the last time it erupted and shook was in the 1800s, and it changed the course of the river. For 3 days, the river flowed the opposite direction. And,
wow.
And each time when it made its turn and went back again, it took out hundreds and hundreds of miles of fertile land and people instantly. Just a tidal wave 200 feet high. That kind
What about New York? You think the lakes and so on can just, is that going to be a problem too? I have a lot of friends and family in New York, and I'm sure that most of them are listening right now and probably wondering.
The island of Manhattan has numerous fault lines. They don't talk about it.
No, they don't.
Can you imagine what could happen if a major quake hit the East Coast? Can you imagine Manhattan riddled with all of its subway tunnels? Oh, boy.
Yeah, that would be...
that doesn't sound good. There's a lot of weight up there.
There sure is.
There sure is. I know. I'm not trying to be flippant or sound, cute about it.
No.
It's serious.
It's very
That movie,
serious.
Roland Emmerich's movie, 2012, should wake up the entire consciousness of the
I
planet.
can't wait to see that movie. I saw a clip from it, and I was just stuck to it. I wanted to watch the whole thing through.
It has very deep spirit. By the way, it's more than just a disaster movie. Emmerich, Roland writes. He writes most of his own screenplays. He always writes in messages, all of them. There's the one about the Tibetan monk. I think when you go see this movie, Michael, clear your mind, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Just let it happen. Let it happen to you.
Going to come out at movie theater a new man, I think.
I hope so. Michael, I don't know how much time we have, but I want to thank you again. This has been great fun. I've learned an awful lot, believe it or not, even though it sounds like I've done all the talking. I'd love to come back. I want to leave everybody with this thought. The reason that we're also interested, or that we should be interested in the future, and that means when I hang up the phone, to when I go to sleep, to when I get up tomorrow, you see, the future, is because that's where I personally will live the rest of my life. Now, if you stop and think about it, every time you wake up, you go, Okay, sure. Let's do this again because I had the pleasure of waking up to a sane and sober bed, and I'm alive, and I'm healthy, and I have my spirit about me, and all I have to do is complete my mission. And that's my philosophy for a good morning.
That's a great one.
And a cup of coffee and a sweet roll.
Yeah, I hear that.
No, not always the sweet roll. I've had a... Listen, I'm human like everybody else. Anyway, I want to thank you again.
And I want to thank you, Dr. Wren, for joining us on Late Night in the Midlands. And I definitely will have you back. And I'll get in touch with you by email tomorrow, as a matter of fact.
Well, I got to send you a book, so send me I need your address so I can get you a signed book.
Okay, well, I appreciate that very much, and I will send that. I'll send that all that information to you tomorrow.
Absolutely. And you know what we could do for the next show? I'll send you a couple of signed books, and we could do a call-in thing. I'll let you plan it out.
All right, great. Sounds good.
I'll send a couple of books along with yours when I send them back.
Okay, sounds great.
All right.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Wren.
Thanks again, and remember, you got to stay focused. If you just stay focused on your personal mission, there's nothing you can't conquer, and this will come, and this too shall pass. All right?
Okay.
Okay, buddy. Thanks again.
All right. Thank you very much, and you have a
bye-bye.
very good night. Goodbye. I guess in the meantime, I can talk about some upcoming shows, and while I'm at it, I can even take a call.
Hello, I'm here.
Oh, hello, Dr. Wren.
Yes, sir. I've been here. I've been hearing you talking.
Oh, really? Oh, because
yes,
it just showed up on the switchboard. I apologize for that.
I have no idea. Listen, that's why it's called Late Night in the Midlands, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Let's look at that as a positive. I have no idea. I went through the number routine, and I just waited. And then I heard you talking, and I said, okay, I'll just wait for the right opportunity. Anyway, good evening. How are you?
I am doing great, and good evening to you. And how are you doing tonight?
Great. Well, we're off to a very strange and unique start. So you take the lead, and I'll follow, and we'll talk about any subject at any level you'd like tonight.
Okay, great. I guess you could start out by telling everybody a little bit about yourself and a little bit about your book, and feel free to give any websites or information on anything you like to start things out.
Well, why don't we do this? I always like to start out at the immediate moment that our interview begins because I have this little interesting psychological profile game we play to find out where your audience is. I understand we may take calls tonight, correct?
Yeah, that is correct.
All right. So why don't we throw the challenge out there first to get them thinking about what to call in about, all right?
All right.
All right. Now, hey, everybody. I've written a book called Return to Planet X. Reads like science fiction, has a screenplay like Star Trek attached to it, and it's way, way beyond anything we could imagine. But instead of being science fiction, the book we wrote about is about a real event that is about to happen to the entire structure of the planet and the solar system and its relationship to our particular sector of the galaxy. Let's introduce it from the galactic viewpoint.
Okay.
We exist as a solar system on one of the furthest outstretches in the spiral arms of the Milky Way galaxy. I mean, if you were to look at it looking down at the plane of the ecliptic as if you were above in a big spaceship, you would see our little beautiful solar system perfectly balanced by the sun, existing all by itself, yet surrounded by billions of stars. But the distances are so great. Imagine what we're talking about if you were looking at it from way up in space. So you see, our galaxy is a huge spiral wheel of stars that circulates in a counterclockwise motion for some unknown, well, not totally unknown, but also spiritual level. All of God's creation seems to rotate in a counterclockwise motion. All galaxies, all solar systems, all suns, most meteorite belts, westernmost planets. They themselves called it Planet X. They even put the hyphen between the T and the X. They did it just perfect. It was NASA itself who ignited this entire thing about Planet X. It's just that simple. Now, the question is, what's that got to do with today? Well, it's got everything to do with today. Because I think that the result of this large rock smashing through our baby solar system of 4.5 to 5 billion years ago, when it hit Marduk, it burst into billions and trillions and gillions of pieces, just like our national deficit. and it formed the asteroid belt. Other large pieces also careened inward toward the sun. We think one hit the Earth, thus breaking up the original continental mass known as Pangea. When the Earth was formed and settled, it was one huge mass. And it's interesting, if you look at the Pacific Ocean and figure out how it all fits as a jigsaw puzzle, something probably hit deep in the Pacific Ocean, which is why the Pacific Ocean is much larger and deeper, and apparently pushed against the continental plates that are now the west coast of California. So with that, we think that that's what set up the way the continents were split. And that also would help to explain why all this pressure is against the western plate going against the continental western plate of the United States, setting us up for the big one. Back to Planet X. See, it's all tied in, Michael. Everything we talk about, the political intrigue going on, this deficit business, this mysterious swine flu M1 virus.
Yeah.
All of this is so interestingly played out. It's almost as if it should be part of Roland Emmeringer's 2012. You know it's coming November 13th, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's going to be a jawbreaker and an eye-opener, and I guarantee you that if the population of this country doesn't have their eyes made more wide open by that particular motion picture, nothing will grab your attention better. Now, I don't think it's going to be that bad. I hope to hell it's not. But,
oh, same here.
but, if all the legends are wrong, and all the predictions are wrong, and all the weather stats are wrong, and all the prophecies are wrong, and all the sacred books and the legends that go back, and as we traced this Planet X thing that comes through, it comes through about every 36 to 4,000 years. I got to finish about what it is exactly.
Okay.
Another piece hit Mars, causing the huge bulge out at the western extremes of Mars. A big piece hit that, and the piece certainly must have hit Venus, because Venus died instantly. It was like she was struck by something electric, and she went into a hot state. Now, we believe that according to the legends and all the research, and I take this, and believe me, I take this very seriously, we probably had 12 original planets in the solar system, not the 9, or let's say the 8.5. You know, poor Pluto got demoted. You know that.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I don't like that. I grew up with Pluto, you know.
Yeah, me too.
All right, so let's just assume we still got 9 planets left, all right?
Okay.
And their moons in the asteroid belt and all of that. Okay, so apparently we must have lost 3 planets somewhere to go from 12 to 9, okay? So that would be Marduk and what Zecharia Sitchin might be referring to as the 12th planet. I'm sure you're aware of him and his books and his theories.
Yes, I am.
All right. He's frighteningly on target. There may well be a 12th planet out there, and it may well be tied into this thing called Planet X. We think that Planet X is not a planet, but it is a small brown dwarf star, possibly the size of Saturn or possibly only as small as our moon. But whatever it is, we believe that it is what's left of a small baby sun that circled our big mother sun. we believe that our solar system was originally equipped with 12 planets, and it was a binary star system. A large fusion star, Sol, which of course still shines, thank goodness, and its baby, and a big piece of this chunk out of space smashed dead on into it and instantly spun it 180 degrees out of its counterclockwise orbit and spun it instead in a reverse course clockwise. It hit it instantly. You follow me? Spinning it 180 degrees on its axis, which would probably be the force of two things the size that they were colliding with each other. And it sent it out into a long, narrow, elliptical orbit thrust away from the sun by the force of the blow. And it's an elliptical orbit which may take anywhere from 3,600 to 4,000 years to complete. We've never really seen one this up close. All we have are the legends and the stories and the conspiracies surrounding what it is. What is Planet X? It's all of it, Michael. It's all of it. It's all the science fiction and all the horror about the weather and all this political nonsense about Armageddon, or maybe it's not nonsense. Yeah. I think, believe it or not. See, I didn't start this journey out, this search for planet Earth, what may be the return of our baby sister sun. This came at me from a dozen angles almost simultaneously. But what caused the nail to go into the coffin of doubt was when I started everything rotates counterclockwise. So here we are out on this arm. We're hanging out there all by our lonesomes. And all of a sudden, about 4.5 to 5 billion years ago. Now, mind you that the Milky Way galaxy probably now could be 10,000 billion years old.
Wow,
okay?
That's pretty old.
the Big Bang thing, way back there, okay?
Yeah.
So we're about 4.5 to 5 billion years into the illumination and the ignition of our sun, which is a fusion-driven power plant, which gives Earth all of her life. Without the sun, there would be no life on planet Earth. Okay. About 4.5 to 5 billion years ago, some gigantic, huge rock from space, possibly the size of a small planet, comes careening out of the deep reaches of space, coming directly at what would be looking down on the plane of the ecliptic of our solar system, with the sun in the center and all the planets. I'm sure you've seen a top view at some point, you know, in your astronomy classics of what our solar system looks like with the sun rotating and all the planets. Well, this huge space rock comes roaring right through the local center sector of our solar system and collides head-on with a huge rocky planet at the outer edges of this young solar system. It was called Marduk, according to legends and all the references. We have 2,000 references in our book about everything that you and I are talking about is contained in the book, The Return of Planet X. Okay? Okay. Now, mind you, this isn't science fiction.
No,
we believe really happened based on 7 years of research, reading 300 or 400 books, and it's all written down. It's kind of like a mystery coming at you, but then at the end you go, oh boy, are we ready for this?
I remember reading about this Planet X stuff back when I was in high school. They didn't know a lot about it, but I do remember reading a few articles about Planet X.
You know where the name Planet X even got its modern-day genesis? Real simple. It was NASA. In 1982, NASA was conducting a huge series of infrared telescopic deep light searches, and they come upon, much to their surprise, what seems to be a very, very hot, smoldering type of molten, igniting and blowing itself up and over, like a small sun seemed to be coming straight at us from deep space. And they said that they had never seen anything like it and suspected that it was probably something like a brown dwarf star or something like that. And guess what? They said, since we don't know what to call it, this is in the news article, New York Times, press releases, talk shows, and all of a sudden, 24 hours later, whew, gone, clean, wiped off the face of television and print media, is the story of Planet X. To get involved with some of the prophecies that are contained in the original Hebraic writings, the Torah, as well as the Old Testament and the New Testament. There are so many cross-referencings that, okay, let me give you just one. Okay? I want to discuss it from a position of numerology. In numerology, every number has a corresponding letter associated with it, right?
Okay.
A is 1, what? B is 2, right? C is 3.
Huh?
So each number has a corresponding letter. Okay, let's take this magical, mystical, Mayan, end-of-time cosmic date, Roland Emmeringer's 2012. Let's take December 21st, 2012, which is what all of the research and all of the stuff incoming, there are 10,000 websites about 2012 and what's going on. When you boil it down numerically, December 21st, 2012 becomes 12-21-12. 12, 21, 2012. Reads as now in letter form. ABBAAB. Now, when you consider that the Hebrew language is read from right to left, what? We reverse everything. So this date is turned upside down and now would read, in terms of letters, B-A-A-B-B-A. Now, in Hebrew, that's pronounced Ba'aba. 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 Now, the Hebrew translation for Ba'aba is, here we go, Father comes, Father is coming. Stop frame. In the Judeo-Christian ethic and in all forms, in fact, in almost every language, every religion of the world, they associate Father with God. You see?
Right, right.
So God is coming, or God comes, God is coming, would be Father comes, Father is coming, because Father and the God are one and the same. Now, it is very interesting that that happens just that way. It's too strange for it to come out that way in terms of the Hebraic understanding of the date, December 21st, 2012. Now I'm going to jump into the New Testament. I want to jump. By the way, this is not a religious thing I'm pulling on you. Please
I understand
that. This is pure science, my friend. I ain't selling any religious book. You know, I don't have any prayer beads. This is not where I'm going.
Oh, I totally understand.
All right. I want everybody to understand. I'm dead serious about this. Now I want to jump into the New Testament. Just 2 quotes, and that's it. We'll move right on. But it's profound. Chapter 8, verse 11. Just doodle down, chapter 8, verse 11. And I'm only going to quote